The sky above New York City turned an eerie shade of orange as the alien fleet descended. Massive ships, each one larger than any skyscraper on Earth, hovered silently over the city's towering buildings. People spilled out of offices, homes, and schools, their faces tilted upward in awe and fear. The streets were a chaotic mix of panic and curiosity. Car horns blared as drivers abandoned their vehicles, while others froze in place, unable to comprehend what they were seeing. In Washington, D.C., Jack Thompson sat in his modest office at the Department of State. He was a man in his late 30s with short brown hair and glasses that always seemed slightly crooked. His phone buzzed incessantly with updates about the alien arrival, but he ignored it for now. Instead, he stared at the live news feed on his computer screen, watching the surreal scene unfold. Jack wasn't easily rattled. He had spent years negotiating peace deals in war-torn regions, but this felt different. This wasn't just another human conflict. It was something far bigger. At the same time, Claire Bennett was rushing through the crowded halls of Georgetown University. A linguist by profession, she specialized in decoding ancient languages, not extraterrestrial ones. But when her phone lit up with an urgent message from the White House, she knew her expertise might be needed. Her heart raced as she grabbed her laptop and notes before heading to her car. She didn't know what awaited her, but she couldn't shake the feeling that this moment would change everything. Within hours, both Jack and Claire found themselves in a secure conference room deep beneath the Pentagon. Around the table sat generals, scientists, and government officials, all speaking over one another. Some argued for immediate military action, convinced the aliens posed a threat. Others urged caution, suggesting humanity should wait for the visitors to make the first move. The air was thick with tension, and every suggestion seemed to spark another argument. Jack cleared his throat, raising his hand like a student in class. "Excuse me," he said calmly, cutting through the noise. Everyone turned to look at him. "We don't know why they're here yet. For all we know, they could be peaceful. Why not try talking to them?" General Lucas Drake, a grizzled man with sharp eyes and a voice like gravel, scoffed. "Talking? You think we can just sit down and have a chat with these things? They could wipe us out without blinking." Claire leaned forward, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "He's right. We won't know unless we try. If they wanted to destroy us, they've already had plenty of chances. Maybe they're here for something else." President Laura Hayes, a woman in her 50s with a commanding presence, listened intently. After a long pause, she nodded. "We'll send a team to approach them. Jack, you'll lead the diplomatic effort. Claire, you'll handle communication if, or when, they respond." Jack swallowed hard. Leading negotiations with aliens wasn't exactly in his job description, but he didn't hesitate. "I'm ready," he said firmly. As night fell, the chosen delegation gathered near Mount Weather, Virginia, where one of the alien ships had landed. Floodlights illuminated the sleek, metallic vessel, which hummed softly as though alive. Soldiers stood nearby, weapons raised but uncertain. Jack adjusted his tie nervously, while Claire clutched her notebook tightly. Neither of them knew what to expect. Finally, a section of the ship opened, revealing a ramp of light. Out stepped three figures, tall, slender beings with shimmering skin that reflected the glow of the floodlights. Their elongated limbs moved gracefully, and their large, almond-shaped eyes scanned the humans with unreadable expressions. One of them stepped forward, its head tilting slightly as if studying Jack. Jack took a deep breath and spoke clearly. "We come in peace. We'd like to talk." For a moment, there was silence. Then, a voice echoed in everyone's minds, not spoken aloud, but somehow understood. "Negotiate?" it asked, sounding surprised. Jack nodded. "Yes, negotiate." The alien paused, then retreated back into the ship without another word. The humans exchanged puzzled glances, unsure whether they had succeeded or failed. What was certain, however, was that humanity had taken its first step into uncharted territory. and nothing would ever be the same again. The delegation stood frozen as the alien ship's ramp retracted and the vessel sealed itself shut. The glowing hum that had filled the air faded into silence, leaving only the sound of crickets chirping in the distance. Jack Thompson let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. His hands trembled slightly as he turned to Claire Bennett, who was scribbling furiously in her notebook. "What did you make of that?" Jack asked, his voice low but steady. Claire frowned, tapping her pen against the paper. "It's hard to say." Their response: "Well, it wasn't hostile, but it wasn't exactly welcoming either. Did you notice how surprised they seemed when you mentioned negotiation?" Jack nodded. "Yeah, I got the feeling they weren't used to being asked to talk things out." General Lucas Drake, standing nearby with arms crossed, snorted, surprised. "They're probably laughing at us right now. We offered them peace, and they just walked away. That doesn't scream friendly to me." Claire shook her head, her expression thoughtful. "I don't think they were mocking us. If anything, they seemed confused, like the idea of negotiation was completely foreign to them." Before anyone could respond, President Laura Hayes stepped forward. Her sharp eyes scanned the group, her tone firm but calm. "Whatever their reaction means, we need to prepare for whatever comes next. Jack, Claire, keep working on understanding their language. General Drake, ensure our defenses are ready. But remember, we're not firing unless fired upon." Back at the Pentagon, Jack and Claire were given a small office to work in. Maps of the alien ships, recordings of their telepathic communication, and notes from the encounter covered every available surface. Claire sat hunched over her laptop, replaying the brief mental message the aliens had sent. "Negotiate." She listened to it over and over, trying to pick apart its structure. "There's something mathematical about it," she murmured after hours of analysis. "Their language, it's almost like a series of patterns or equations. It's beautiful, really." Jack leaned over her shoulder, squinting at the screen. "You mean they're speaking in math?" "Not exactly," Claire replied, adjusting her glasses. "But math seems to be the foundation of how they communicate. Numbers, sequences, ratios. They might use those as building blocks for more complex ideas. If we can figure out the basics, we might be able to create a bridge between their way of thinking and ours." While Claire worked on decoding the alien language, Jack focused on crafting a formal proposal for negotiation. He knew the document would likely go unread by the aliens, but it gave him something concrete to focus on. As he typed, he couldn't help but wonder what kind of society the aliens came from. Were they explorers, conquerors, or something else entirely? Hours later, the team received word that the alien ship had reappeared. This time, it landed in the same spot near Mount Weather, but no one stepped out immediately. Soldiers formed a perimeter around the area, their weapons trained on the vessel. Tension crackled in the cool night air as Jack, Claire, and a handful of officials approached cautiously. After several long minutes, the ramp descended once more. Zinral, the tall, shimmering alien who had spoken before, emerged alone. His movements were deliberate, almost regal, as he stopped a few feet away from the humans. Without warning, his voice echoed in their minds again. "Why do you seek dialogue?" Jack blinked, caught off guard by the directness of the question. He glanced at Claire, who nodded encouragingly. Taking a step forward, Jack spoke slowly and clearly. "We believe that talking is better than fighting. We want to understand each other, not hurt each other." Zinral tilted his head, studying Jack intently. "Your species is young. Most young species react with violence when faced with the unknown. Why are you different?" Claire stepped forward this time, her voice soft but confident. "Maybe because we've learned from our mistakes. We've fought wars, destroyed lands, and hurt each other. But we've also built bridges, created art, and dreamed of peace. Talking to you, it's part of that dream." For a moment, Zinral said nothing. Then he raised one slender hand, palm facing outward. "Show me your words." Claire hesitated, then pulled out her tablet. She displayed the mathematical patterns she had been working on, explaining how humans used symbols and numbers to express ideas. Zinral watched silently, his glowing eyes flickering as if processing the information. Finally, he lowered his hand. "You intrigue us," he said simply. "We will meet again." And with that, he turned and disappeared back into the ship. The ramp closed behind him, and the vessel lifted off the ground, vanishing into the night sky. Jack and Claire exchanged a glance, both too stunned to speak. Whatever the aliens' intentions were, one thing was clear. Humanity had made an impression, and the next meeting could change everything. The days following the second encounter with the aliens were a whirlwind of activity and debate. News of the meeting spread quickly, sparking heated discussions across the globe. In Washington, D.C., the tension inside the Pentagon was palpable. Jack Thompson sat in yet another conference room, his tie loosened and his shirt sleeves rolled up. Across the table, General Lucas Drake paced back and forth like a caged animal, his boots thudding against the floor. "We're wasting time," Drake growled, slamming his fist on the table. "Every second we sit here talking, they could be planning an attack. We need to act now, before it's too late." Jack leaned forward, his voice calm but firm. "Act how? Shoot first and ask questions later. That's exactly what they might expect from us. If we rush into this, we could start a war we can't win." Drake glared at him. "And if we wait, we might lose our chance to strike while we still have the advantage." Claire Bennett, sitting quietly at the far end of the table, finally spoke up. "We don't even know what their intentions are. For all we know, they're just as scared of us as we are of them." "Scared?" Drake scoffed. "Those things aren't scared of anything. Did you see the size of their ships? They could crush us without breaking a sweat." President Laura Hayes raised a hand, cutting off the argument before it escalated further. Her voice was steady but carried an edge of authority. "Enough. Both sides make valid points, but we can't let fear dictate our actions. Jack, Claire, you've had direct contact with them. What do you think our next move should be?" Jack hesitated for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "I think we need to keep trying diplomacy." Zinral didn't reject us outright. He seemed curious, maybe even intrigued. "If we can show them that we're serious about peace, we might have a chance." Claire nodded in agreement, "And I think I'm starting to understand more about their language. It's not just math. It's layered with meaning, almost like poetry. If I can decode more of it, we might be able to communicate on a deeper level." Hayes considered this for a moment, then turned to Drake. "General, I want you to prepare our defenses, but no offensive actions unless absolutely necessary." "Understood." Drake clenched his jaw but gave a curt nod. "Understood, Madam President." As the meeting broke up, Jack and Claire returned to their makeshift office. The walls were now covered with charts, diagrams, and notes scrawled in Claire's neat handwriting. She immediately went to work analyzing the recordings of Zinral's telepathic messages, searching for patterns or clues. Jack watched her for a moment, then picked up a marker and began sketching ideas on the whiteboard. "What if we try showing them something universal?" he suggested, "like music or art, something that doesn't rely on language." Claire paused, tapping her pen against her chin. "That's not a bad idea. Music is based on rhythm and harmony, concepts that might resonate with them. But we'd need to present it in a way they can understand. Maybe through math again," Jack said, drawing a series of numbers on the board. "If their language is rooted in mathematical patterns, perhaps we can translate music into equations." Claire smiled faintly. "It's worth a shot. Let me see what I can do." Hours later, Claire had created a simple melody using numerical sequences. When played back, it sounded like a soft, haunting tune, not quite human, but not entirely alien either. Jack listened to it several times, nodding approvingly. This could work. It's simple enough to get the message across without overwhelming them. But not everyone shared their optimism. Outside the Pentagon, protests erupted in cities around the world. Some people demanded immediate military action, convinced the aliens posed a threat. Others called for peace, holding signs that read "Talk, don't fight," and "Give diplomacy a chance." Social media buzzed with theories and speculation, ranging from hopeful to apocalyptic. Amid the chaos, Jack received a call from his younger sister, Emily, who lived in Chicago. Her voice trembled with worry. "Jack, are you okay? I saw the news about the aliens. What's really going on?" He sighed, rubbing his temples. "Honestly, I don't know. But we're doing everything we can to figure it out." "You'll be careful, right?" she asked softly. Of course, he promised, though he wasn't sure he believed it himself. As night fell, Jack and Claire prepared for the possibility of another meeting with the aliens. They didn't know when, or if, it would happen, but they were determined to be ready. Whatever came next, humanity's future depended on getting it right. The call came in the middle of the night. Jack Thompson was lying on a cot in his makeshift office at the Pentagon, staring at the ceiling and trying to quiet his restless mind. When his phone buzzed, he grabbed it quickly, his heart pounding. It was an urgent message from the White House. The aliens were ready to meet again. Jack woke Claire Bennett with a gentle knock on her door. She answered groggily, her hair messy and her glasses slightly askew. "What is it?" she mumbled. "They're back," Jack said simply. "We need to go." Within minutes, they were rushing toward Mount Weather once more, accompanied by a small team of soldiers and scientists. The air was chilly, and the moon hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the empty field. The alien ship descended slowly, its sleek surface shimmering under the floodlights. This time, there was no hesitation. The ramp extended immediately, and Zinral stepped out alone. Jack took a deep breath and stepped forward, raising his hands to show he wasn't armed. "We're here to talk," he said, his voice steady despite the knot in his stomach. Zinral tilted his head, studying Jack intently. "You bring words again," he said telepathically, "but do your actions match them?" Claire stepped forward, holding up her tablet. On the screen was the melody she had created, a series of numbers arranged in patterns that corresponded to musical notes. "This is something we'd like to share with you," she explained. "It's called music. It's a way for us to express emotions and connect with each other." Zinral regarded the tablet curiously, then reached out with one slender hand. Claire hesitated for a moment before handing it over. The alien examined the screen closely, his glowing eyes flickering, as if processing the information. After a moment, he nodded. "Patterns within patterns. You seek harmony." "Yes," Claire replied, her voice filled with hope. "Harmony is important to us. It's how we build relationships, even when we're different." Zinral handed the tablet back to Claire, then gestured for them to follow him. Without waiting for a response, he turned and walked up the ramp into the ship. Jack and Claire exchanged a glance, then followed cautiously, their hearts racing. Inside, the walls glowed faintly, pulsing with soft light. The air felt warm and carried a strange metallic scent. They entered a large chamber where several other aliens stood waiting. Their forms were similar to Zinral's, but each had subtle differences in color and shape. One of them approached, holding what looked like a crystal orb. The orb floated gently in the air, emitting a low hum. Zinral gestured toward it. "Show us your intent." Claire hesitated, unsure of what to do. Jack stepped forward instead, placing his hand near the orb without touching it. He closed his eyes and focused on the idea of peace, on bridges being built, on understanding replacing fear. To his surprise, the orb began to glow brighter, its hum growing louder. The aliens watched silently, their expressions unreadable. When Jack opened his eyes, Zinral spoke again. "Your thoughts are clear, but trust must be earned." "We understand," Jack said, nodding. "And we're willing to work for it." For a long moment, Zinral studied them both. Then he turned to the other aliens and exchanged a series of rapid, silent gestures. Whatever they communicated seemed to satisfy him, because he turned back to Jack and Claire. "We will share knowledge. Small steps first." Before they could respond, the aliens escorted them back to the ramp. As they stepped outside, the ship began to rise, disappearing into the night sky once more. Jack and Claire stood there, stunned but hopeful. They didn't fully understand what had just happened, but one thing was certain: the aliens were willing to take the next step. Back at the Pentagon, Jack and Claire shared their experience with President Hayes. Her expression softened as she listened. "So, they're open to working with us." "It seems that way," Jack replied. "But we'll need to prove ourselves every step of the way." Hayes nodded. "Then let's get to work. Humanity's future depends on this." As Jack and Claire returned to their office, they couldn't help but feel a spark of optimism. The road ahead would be difficult, but for the first time, it felt possible. The next few days were a blur of activity for Jack Thompson and Claire Bennett. They spent hours poring over the details of their latest encounter with the aliens, trying to piece together what Sinral had meant by small steps. President Laura Hayes had given them full support, urging them to focus on building trust with the Vailith. But as the world watched and waited, pressure mounted from all sides. General Lucas Drake was particularly vocal in his skepticism. "Small steps. What does that even mean?" he demanded during one tense meeting. "Are we supposed to sit around twiddling our thumbs while they decide whether or not to crush us?" Jack leaned back in his chair, keeping his tone calm. "It means we need to show them we're serious about working together. If they're willing to share knowledge, then we should be ready to do the same." Claire nodded, holding up her tablet. "I've been analyzing the patterns they showed us during the last meeting. There's something there, something important. I think it might be a clue about why they're here." Drake crossed his arms, unconvinced. "And what if this is just a distraction? What if they're stalling so they can figure out how to hit us harder?" President Hayes intervened before the argument could escalate. "We don't have time for guesswork. Claire, keep digging into their language. Jack, find a way to demonstrate our goodwill. General, prepare for any scenario. But remember, no action unless provoked." With that, the meeting ended, leaving Jack and Claire to return to their work. Back in their office, Claire focused intently on decoding the alien patterns. She noticed something new this time: a repeating sequence that didn't quite fit with the rest of the mathematical structure. It was subtle, almost hidden, but it stood out to her trained eye. "Jack," she said suddenly, breaking the silence. "Look at this." He leaned over her shoulder, squinting at the screen. "What am I looking at?" "This sequence," she explained, pointing to a string of numbers. "It's not part of their language. It's more like data. Coordinates, maybe." Jack frowned. "Coordinates for what?" "I'm not sure yet," Claire admitted. "But if I map them, we might get an idea." She quickly ran the numbers through a program designed to plot spatial coordinates. The result appeared on the screen: a star system far beyond Earth's solar system. Claire stared at it, her heart racing. "This has to be where they're from. Their home." Jack's eyes widened. "Do you think they gave this to us on purpose?" "It's possible," Claire said slowly. "Maybe they wanted us to know where they came from. Or maybe," her voice trailed off as another thought occurred to her, "or maybe they're showing us because they need help getting back." Jack straightened, his mind racing. "You think their ship is damaged? That's why they're here." "It would explain a lot," Claire replied. "Why else would they take such a risk approaching Earth? If their technology is failing, they'd need resources, or allies, to fix it." Determined to test her theory, Claire began cross-referencing the coordinates with known astronomical data. Meanwhile, Jack drafted a proposal to present to the president. He suggested offering assistance in exchange for continued cooperation and transparency. It was a bold move, but it might be the key to earning the Vailith's trust. When they finally met with President Hayes, Jack laid out their findings. "If we're right, the Vailith aren't here to conquer. They're here to survive. Helping them could strengthen our relationship and prove we're worth trusting. Hayes listened carefully, her expression thoughtful. It's risky. Offering aid could make us vulnerable if they turn on us. But if we don't, Jack countered, we risk losing the chance to build something extraordinary. After a long pause, Hayes nodded. Do it, but proceed cautiously. That night, Jack and Casey received word that the Valeth had returned. This time, the ship landed closer to Washington, D.C., signaling its intent to communicate directly. As they approached, Zinral greeted them with the same calm demeanor as before. Jack wasted no time, presenting the mapped coordinates and explaining their interpretation. Zinral studied the display silently, then raised his head. You see much, he said finally. Yes. Our journey is fragile. We seek only what we need to endure. Jack exchanged a glance with Claire, relief washing over him. For the first time, the pieces were falling into place. Whatever challenges lay ahead, humanity now had a clearer understanding of the Valeth and a chance to shape the future together. The revelation about the Valeth's plight spread quickly, igniting a firestorm of reactions across the globe. News outlets broadcasted Jack and Claire's findings, showing maps of the distant star system and speculating about the aliens' intentions. While some people were moved by the idea of helping a struggling species, others saw it as a dangerous gamble. In New York City, protesters gathered outside the United Nations building, holding signs that read, "Help them," "Help us," and "Don't trust the aliens." The divide was clear. Some believed humanity had a moral duty to assist the Valeth, while others argued that offering aid could leave Earth vulnerable to exploitation. Social media exploded with debates, memes, and conspiracy theories, each side growing louder and more entrenched. General Lucas Drake seized the moment to rally support for his hawkish stance. In a televised interview, he warned against trusting the aliens too easily. They're clever, he said, his voice sharp and authoritative. They've played on our emotions, making us think they're harmless. But how do we know this isn't a trick? Once we give them resources, what's stopping them from taking everything else? His words struck a chord with many, fueling fear and skepticism. Protesters began chanting slogans like, "Protect Earth first," and demanding stronger military action. Some even called for President Laura Hayes to step down, accusing her of putting humanity at risk. Inside the White House, the pressure weighed heavily on Hayes. She sat in the Oval Office late at night, staring at reports and public opinion polls. Her advisors urged caution, warning that siding too openly with diplomacy could cost her political capital. But Hayes knew she couldn't let fear dictate policy, not when so much was at stake. Jack Thompson and Claire Bennett faced their own challenges. As they worked tirelessly to prepare for the next meeting with the Valeth, they were bombarded with questions from journalists, scientists, and ordinary citizens. Some praised their efforts, calling them heroes. Others accused them of naivety, claiming they were leading humanity into a trap. Despite the backlash, Jack remained resolute. "We can't let fear stop us from doing what's right," he told Claire one evening as they reviewed plans in their office. "If we turn our backs on the Valeth now, we'll be no better than the civilizations they described, the ones that attacked without understanding." Claire nodded, though her eyes betrayed her exhaustion. "I just hope people listen. We've worked so hard to build this bridge. If we lose it now—" "We won't," Jack interrupted firmly. "Not if we keep showing them the truth." To counter the rising tide of fear, Jack and Claire decided to take their message directly to the public. With President Hayes' approval, they recorded a video address to share worldwide. Standing side by side in a simple briefing room, they spoke plainly and honestly. "We know this is scary," Jack began, looking straight into the camera. "But turning away isn't the answer. These beings are desperate. They need help, not hostility. By working together, we have a chance to create something amazing, something that could benefit all of us." Claire stepped forward, holding up a tablet displaying the alien language alongside human translations. "This isn't just about survival," It's about connection. They've shown us their vulnerability, and we've shown them ours. That's how trust begins. The video went viral almost instantly, sparking both praise and criticism. But slowly, something shifted. Ordinary people started sharing stories of compassion and cooperation, reminding everyone of humanity's capacity for kindness. Teachers used the crisis as a lesson in empathy, encouraging students to imagine themselves in the Valeth's place. Even some soldiers refused orders to escalate aggression, saying they didn't sign up to fight beings who hadn't harmed anyone. As days passed, the protests grew quieter, replaced by rallies calling for peace. Signs reading "Together we thrive" appeared in cities around the world. Though tensions remained high, a fragile sense of unity began to emerge. When the Valeth returned for another meeting, Zinral seemed to notice the change. Through telepathic communication, he acknowledged humanity's struggle. "You test yourselves," he said, "but you also show strength in unity. This pleases us." Jack smiled faintly, feeling a glimmer of hope. For the first time, it felt like humanity might truly rise to the occasion. The Valeth's next move came as a surprise. Instead of meeting on Earth, they invited a small team of humans aboard their massive mothership. It was an unprecedented gesture, one that carried both promise and risk. After hours of debate, President Laura Hayes approved the mission, selecting Jack Thompson, Claire Bennett, and a group of scientists to represent humanity. For safety, General Lucas Drake insisted on sending a few soldiers along, though their weapons were left behind. As the team approached the alien vessel, its sheer size overwhelmed them. The ship loomed like a floating city, its surface shimmering with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. A smaller craft descended to transport them inside, and as they stepped aboard, Jack felt a strange sensation, a mix of awe and unease. The air inside was warm and carried a faint hum, almost like a heartbeat. Zinral greeted them personally, his tall frame towering over the humans. "You honor us by coming," he said telepathically. "We will show you our truth." The team followed him deeper into the ship, passing through corridors that glowed softly with light. Along the walls, symbols pulsed rhythmically, resembling the mathematical patterns Claire had been studying. She couldn't help but reach out to touch one, only to pull her hand back when it responded by glowing brighter. Their destination was a vast chamber filled with machinery unlike anything they'd ever seen. In the center stood a massive structure, a sphere encased in transparent material, crackling with energy. Around it, Valeth workers moved silently, tending to consoles and adjusting controls. Many of them looked weary, their movements slower than those of Zinral and his companions. Claire stepped closer to the sphere, her eyes wide with fascination. "This must be their life support system," she whispered to Jack. "It's failing." One of the scientists confirmed her suspicion after analyzing readings from portable scanners. "They're running out of power," he murmured. "If they don't stabilize this soon, their entire species could die." Zinral nodded solemnly. "You see now why we came. We do not seek conquest or riches, only survival." Jack felt a lump rise in his throat. Seeing the desperation firsthand made the situation painfully real. These beings weren't invaders. They were refugees, clinging to hope in a hostile universe. During their time aboard, Claire formed a bond with a female Valeth named Scialfar. Unlike Zinral, who radiated authority, Scialfar had a softer presence. Through gestures and broken bits of translated language, she explained how the Valeth valued logic above emotion, believing it led to peace and order. But she admitted that humanity's willingness to negotiate baffled her people. "Your kind surprises us." Scialfar communicated through a combination of telepathy and written symbols. "You act against reason, yet your actions create trust. How do you decide?" Claire hesitated, unsure how to explain something so complex. "Sometimes we follow our hearts instead of our heads," she replied. "It doesn't always make sense, but it helps us connect." Scialfar tilted her head thoughtfully, as if processing the idea. Perhaps there is wisdom in chaos. Back on Earth, images sent by the team sparked a wave of empathy. People saw the Valeth not as faceless invaders, but as individuals fighting for survival. Social media flooded with messages of support, and even skeptics began to soften their stance. General Drake grumbled about the shift in public opinion, but acknowledged that outright hostility was no longer an option. When the team returned to Earth, they brought back more than just data. They carried proof of the Valeth's vulnerability. Claire presented her findings to President Hayes, emphasizing the urgency of helping them repair their systems. If we assist them, we might gain access to technology far beyond our understanding, she argued. But even if we don't, it's still the right thing to do. Hayes agreed, though she knew the decision wouldn't sit well with everyone. Let's move forward carefully, she said. Humanity has taken a step toward unity. Let's make sure we don't stumble now. As Jack and Claire prepared for the next phase of negotiations, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were part of something bigger, not just for humanity, but for two species learning to trust each other across the stars. Jack Thompson and Claire Bennett knew they had no time to waste. With the Valeth fleet looming ominously above Earth, they worked tirelessly to craft a message that could reach every corner of the planet. Their goal was simple yet monumental: to remind humanity of its potential for compassion and unity in the face of fear. Using footage from their visits to the alien ship, including images of the weary Valeth workers and the failing life support system, they created a video that told the full story. The narration was straightforward, delivered by Jack and Claire in calm, heartfelt tones. These beings came to us not as enemies, but as travelers in need, Jack explained on camera. They sought help, not harm. And now, because of one reckless act, we risk losing everything we've built. Claire added her voice, showing clips of Sylthar and other Valeth. Look at them. They're not monsters. They're individuals, just like us, fighting to survive. If we turn away now, what does that say about who we are? The video was broadcast across every major network, shared on social media platforms, and even screened in public spaces. It struck a chord with millions of viewers, reigniting the spark of empathy that had begun to fade after the attack. People took to the streets again, but this time, the signs read, "Forgive us," and "Give peace a chance." Churches, schools, and community centers organized vigils, lighting candles in solidarity with the Valeth. Even some soldiers refused to follow orders related to further aggression. One young officer stood before news cameras and declared, "I didn't join the military to fight beings who haven't hurt us. I joined to protect lives, not destroy them." As the movement grew, President Laura Hayes seized the opportunity to address the world once more. Standing alongside Jack and Claire in the White House press room, she spoke with quiet determination. "We made a mistake, a grave one, but we can still choose a better path. Let us show the Valeth that humanity is capable of more than fear and violence. Let us prove that we are worthy of trust." Meanwhile, Zinral and his fleet remained silent, their ships hovering closer to Earth's surface. Cities braced for an attack that seemed inevitable. Yet, despite the tension, small acts of courage began to emerge. In New York City, a group of artists projected messages of peace onto skyscrapers, using light and color to send hope into the skies. In Tokyo, thousands gathered in a park to sing songs of unity, their voices carrying through the night. Finally, after days of silence, the Valeth responded. A single ship descended near Mount Weather, where it all began. Jack and Claire rushed to the site, accompanied by a small delegation of scientists and officials. This time, there were no crowds, no cameras, just an empty field bathed in the glow of floodlights. Zinral stepped out alone, his expression unreadable. He listened silently as Jack pleaded once more. "Please, don't judge all of us by the actions of a few. We're doing everything we can to make this right." For a long moment, Zinral said nothing. Then he raised his hand, palm outward. "Your kind confounds us," he admitted. "You are chaotic, unpredictable. Yet you strive for connection, even when faced with destruction. Show me your intent once more. And quickly. Time grows short. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a chance. Jack and Claire exchanged a glance, relief washing over them. They had one last opportunity to save humanity, and perhaps the Valith too, from disaster. The final meeting between humanity and the Valith took place aboard their mothership once more. This time, Jack Thompson and Claire Bennett brought with them not just words, but actions. They carried a proposal crafted by scientists, engineers, and diplomats, a plan to share Earth's resources and knowledge in exchange for peace and cooperation. It was risky, offering so much to an alien species that had every reason to distrust them, but it was also bold, a testament to humanity's capacity for hope. Zinral greeted them solemnly, his glowing eyes reflecting the weight of what had transpired. The chamber where they met was dimly lit, the hum of the failing life support system serving as a constant reminder of the stakes. Around them, Valith workers moved silently, tending to consoles and machinery. The air felt heavier than before, charged with both tension and possibility. Jack stepped forward, holding out a tablet displaying diagrams and calculations. "We've analyzed your systems," he began, his voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. "Our scientists believe we can help stabilize your life support system using our technology. In return, we ask only that you leave Earth after repairs are complete, and consider us allies moving forward." Claire added her piece, her tone soft but firm. "This isn't just about survival. It's about partnership. If we work together, we can achieve things neither of us could do alone." Zinral studied the tablet closely, his expression unreadable. After a long pause, he turned to Silfar, who stood nearby. They exchanged silent gestures, their communication swift and seamless. Finally, Zinral looked back at Jack and Claire. "You offer much," he said telepathically. "But how do we know this is not another trick?" Claire hesitated, then reached into her bag and pulled out something small, a musical instrument she had brought from home. It was a simple wooden flute, worn from years of use. She held it up, meeting Zinral's gaze. "Music was one of the first things we shared with you. Let me show you again why it matters." She raised the flute to her lips and began to play, a gentle melody that echoed through the chamber. The notes were soft yet clear, carrying a sense of calm and connection. As the sound filled the room, the Valith paused in their tasks, tilting their heads as if listening intently. Even Zinral seemed affected, his rigid posture relaxing slightly. When the music ended, silence lingered for a moment. Then, Zinral spoke. "You're kind. You're strange," he admitted. "You mix logic with emotion, order with chaos. Yet there is strength in your unpredictability." He gestured toward the tablet. "Very well. We accept your offer, but know this: betrayal will not be tolerated." Relief washed over Jack and Claire, though they knew the hard work was just beginning. Over the following weeks, teams of human scientists and engineers worked alongside the Valith to repair their systems. Knowledge flowed both ways, as humans learned advanced techniques in energy generation and medicine, while teaching the Valith about resilience and creativity. As the repairs neared completion, Zinral addressed humanity one final time. Through broadcasts sent worldwide, he acknowledged the progress made. "You have shown us trust where none was expected. For that we thank you. Though our paths may diverge, remember this: connection is worth the risk." When the Valith fleet departed, leaving Earth's skies clear once more, people around the world watched in awe. Some cheered, others cried, but all felt a shared sense of accomplishment. Humanity had faced its fears and chosen understanding over conflict, a decision that would shape its future forever. Back in Washington, D.C., Jack and Claire stood on the steps of the Capitol building, watching the sunset. "Do you think we'll see them again?" Claire asked quietly. "I don't know," Jack replied. "But if we do, I think it'll be because we proved we're ready." For now, the skies were peaceful, and humanity had taken its first step toward becoming something greater than itself.